Hey guys, how you doing? Just on my way home from the grocery store. I'm finally getting back into that place where I was before the pandemic started, which is that I'm getting physically active again and like going swimming, working out again, and like every time I go up and I go down on that, right? Like I'm like everybody else, I yo-yo, right? And anytime I get into a rhythm, something always comes by and just obliterates my rhythm, and I lose all my gains, so I end up yo-yoing back up and down. And so now I'm finally back to a place where I think I'm happy to be physically active, to be doing that again, which is nice. But every single time I go back up, I'm blown away at how much I have to eat. Like, it just floors me how much I have to eat in order to get to that kind of physical expenditure, Like I go swimming for a half hour, I go for walks every single day, and now I'm starting to do like weight training and working out, and it like kicks up the amount of calories I have to eat and the amount of protein I have to eat by a significant margin. So it's just like, ooh, I always forget. And so when I start doing it, I always end up feeling really bad. But I gotta get over it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's not why you tune into this channel. Unless it is, in which case you're welcome. I think I don't know what to talk about today, honestly. Today was just sort of like a blinding fury of energy, and not fury, but like I woke up and my life happened and now I'm here. I work at a toy store in the beaches in Toronto. It's the best neighborhood I've ever been in. It's the reason I stopped here. I've moved all across Canada several times. And I gotta tell you, of all the places I've ever moved, of all the places I've ever lived, this place is the best. Just no question. The people are the best. The location is the best. Literally the only gripe I have is that the beach itself, the sand on the beach, is not the best sand. That's it. If that's the only thing I'm going to complain about, I'm doing pretty good. And what is surfacing as I'm doing this right now is the idea, like my last video, I think I kind of took for granted that the Trudeau government is actually going to pass a basic income, that they're going to do the right thing, that they're going to make the right decision and pass a basic income, and that they're going to do that because the Jagmeet Singh and the NDP are also doing the right thing and pressuring them to pass basic income. And I can't decide if it's because our media is so terrible and corporate owned and completely bought by billionaires, or if it's because our politicians are so weak and compliant with corporate power. But it is possible that what gets announced at the throne speech is not a basic income, that it is something that looks like a basic income, or something that pretends or presents itself as a basic income, but is not, right? This is exactly what the capitalists did to the green movement, right? The capitalists started to say, oh, well, very well, we'll start to do green initiatives. We'll put up solar panels, we'll do wind energy, we'll do all this kind of stuff. But really what they ended up doing is putting up the facade of those things. They didn't actually do them. They didn't actually invest time, energy, and resources into research and development of these technologies. They just put up a facade, right? They slapped up these windmills, which produce an amount of energy, but they've done absolutely no research. They've done absolutely no, like they literally picked the bottom of the barrel of every single one of these ideas, and have done no further research and have invested no time no money into figuring any of this out. And I mean, the reason for that is pretty clear, right? Capitalists have to be stupid. They have to be stupid. By the very definition. They can't fund research. They can't put money into research because capitalists, because they're gamblers, right? Because that's what they're doing. That's what investing is, right? It's gambling. If you're the investor, right? You're gambling on the idea that this will actually turn an investment, that will actually turn a profit for you, right? That's how investing works. So it's a gamble every time. And so no capitalist is going to take their money and throw it into research and development, i.e. gamble, on the hope that something unknown and unforeseen will pop out of it. David Graeber, God rest his soul, I just heard he passed away, a wonderful economist, put forward a really interesting essay called Bullshit Jobs. I recommend everybody read it. And he pointed out that capitalists require certainty in their investment, so that means that they need you to tell them what it is you're going to invent before you've invented it. Okay? But when you take a look at the history of invention, most of the stories are, well, we were researching around this idea, and then this other thing popped out. Lots of things that we take for granted. Rubber, for God's sakes. Like, rubber came out of that kind of thing, where we were like researching something completely unrelated, looking into something completely unrelated, which was funded by the government because of the world wars, typically, right? It wasn't private capital, it wasn't private investors doing that. Private investors will never do that. They're never going to take a dime of their money and put it into any kind of research. Because research is messy. It's complicated, it takes time, it's difficult. The results that are yielded from it are unpredictable, and you don't necessarily get what you set out to embark upon. And you need people, like, this is why capitalism fails at advancing research, and why it fails at discovering anything. Because to discover something, you have to fail repeatedly, and you have to constantly have a group of people grinding away at failure, right? And the successes that pop out are completely unforeseen, but you have to accept that, right? And if you are just grinding away at a problem, like if you have a government institution who is told, go research and discover stuff, just grind away at it, right? Well, the capitalist class, of course, will roll their eyes and say, like, haha, look how bad they're failing. But then rubber shows up, right? Like, you can't actually discover anything unless you're willing to constantly grind against the failure stone. And if you're unwilling to pay people to fail, right, which capitalists are not willing to pay people to fail, they demand that everything be a complete and total success so that they can exploit it, steal the idea for themselves, which is what they do, and the only way they actually propagate themselves. They're not intelligent. They're more like an animal than they are a person. So the capitalists can't actually achieve anything doing this. I don't know how I got on this tangent, but here I am on this tangent. That capitalism claims that it has the best, that it can advance society the best through its research and development, but it can never give an example, right? People will stand up and be like, well, Bill Gates. And Bill Gates literally took 100 years of government-funded research into computing, repackaged it into a tiny box, and sold it to us as if he invented any of that, which he did not. He invented exactly 0% of it. He just took the research from other people, from the public. We funded that research, and then he took that research, claimed it as his own, privatized, and then privatized the profits. His entire fortune should be the public fortune. Like, we paid for the research that paved the way for Bill Gates. And he basically admits it, right? He understands that he is a child of good fortune, that he was in the right place at the right time. That's part of the reason why he has, like, decent public relations, right? Because he does admit that luck paid a fair amount in his fortune. But the idea that capitalism through private investment will create anything worthwhile, it's just propaganda, which is again, as I say over and over and over again, is the only thing capitalists are good at. Without exception. There is not one thing that capitalists are good at except lying. That's the one thing that they are exceptionally good at. Oh, and murder. They're very good at murder. So how does this relate at all to the basic income? I mean, the throne speech, I'm just trying to suss out exactly what is going to happen at the throne speech, right? And I respect adding like a little intrigue, adding a little suspense. Like that's fine. You don't necessarily want to let the cat out of the bag. Justin Trudeau is a drama teacher, after all. He understands things like suspense. He understands storytelling. But everyone agrees that there is going to be an announcement and that there is going to be a lot of money spent. Everyone agrees with that. Whether or not that is going to be on a successful program like a basic income, or whether or not that is just going to be more worthless quantitative easing handouts to corporations, again, yet to be seen. And there's also, like, tied up in all of this is the fact that our media is not honest, right? It's not an honest... you've got people like John Ivison, Kelly McParland, all these people in the National Post screaming their heads off about how, the deficit, and there's going to be this enormous skyrocketing deficit, but they don't know what a deficit is, and they're economically illiterate. They exist only to put forward a propaganda line for the capitalist class. They don't actually know what they're talking about. And they're paid not to know. Like, that's the big thing, right? They're paid to be illiterate. And they do that job very well. They are very illiterate on purpose, and are happy to be that way because they're wealthy because of it. So why shouldn't they? I mean, outside of having integrity and morals, but they don't, obviously. So the media, I think, is really trying to downplay this, or they're trying to muddy it. It's the reason why they keep talking about how there's going to be there's possibly an election, right? That they keep bringing up that, like, this could be an election, we could have a snap election, because they really do want to distract from the genuine conversation that should be happening right now, which is the populace should really be discussing amongst one another what they will do once they have a basic income. This is the conversation that we should be having, and if we actually had a media, which we don't have a media. We have propagandists exclusively. If we actually had a media that was interested in having a discussion that would matter for the populace, we would be discussing, like, what will individuals do with a basic income? What would be your plan? We would be asking people to consider this and consider this seriously. But the capitalist class can't have people consider this because their considerations will lie outside of the interests of the capitalists. And that's just true across the board, right? That the capitalists don't want you to even think about what your life would be like without them. right? Because if you actually started to think about what your life would be like without these parasitic, vampiric capitalists demonically lying to you and threatening you with starvation and homelessness, calling you lazy for wanting to live a better life, you would realize that your society would be better off without them. So they don't even want you to consider this. They don't even want to pose the question of what would you do with a basic income? Why is nobody in the media asking this question? Why is there not a single person in the Globe and Mail, in the National Post, in the Toronto Star, at Global TV, at the CBC, anywhere across our entire media spectrum? No one is asking the extraordinarily basic question, like rudimentary, grade, like kindergarten level, what would you do with a basic income? How would your life change with a basic income? I think the best I've ever seen is maybe some feel-good stories about the CERB, and some sort of theory crafting kind of thing. But like, why is it not a regular? Because this is a major policy that we're talking about, right? A basic income is a fairly major capitalist reform, right? That is what it is. It's a capitalist reform. So how does it improve people's lives? How does it improve the society? What will people do with it? I haven't even seen just some boob walking around with a mic, right, on one of these CBC style shows where they're get like Rick Mercer being like, hey, what would you do with a basic income? Jamming in people's face. Oh, well, what would I do if I didn't have to worry about my food or my shelter? Right? None of that. That's not happening. Because we're not permitted to even consider a life outside of capitalism. And we won't be permitted to consider that until the collapses have begun. Or until the collapse has fully happened, right? Like, we're not gonna... Until the capitalists have gathered up the spoils of their thievery into their hands and have run off, never to be seen again, that is the only moment that we will be fully permitted to consider life without them, when it's too late. We should genuinely be planning to get rid of these capitalists. They provide nothing. They are thieves. They are liars. They add nothing to our society. They're parasites who suck away our productivity and jam it into offshore accounts, and then complain when we actually want to use that money to help people. This is why they're moaning about the deficit, right? Anytime I hear anyone moan about the deficit, what I hear is, how dare you help people? How dare you improve the society? How dare you make life better? Anytime I hear anybody moan about the deficit, that's what I think. Because it's absolutely true. The government could print this money. They guarantee the value of the money. They can fund this program ad nauseum forever. And if that starts to create inflation in the society, we can tax away the money that's sitting inert doing nothing. As we already should have done, by the way. Right? You want to increase the value of our currency? Get rid of the inert money that's not doing anything. Right? You want to increase the spending power of individuals in the population? Get rid of the inert money that's sitting around doing nothing. Right? You want to lower housing prices? Maybe fill up the empty houses that are owned by billionaires that are just sitting around doing nothing. Right? Capitalism claims that it is the best at distributing resources, but near as I can tell, it's just the best at hoarding resources under a small group of people, which is all they've ever done. Anyway, guys, I am out of time. Thanks for listening to that. That was a bit all over the place, but and hey, like, share, subscribe. I'm still trying to get that 50th. Still trying to get that 50th subscriber. Boy, would that make me feel good about myself. Go meet your neighbors. Go meet your neighbors. Bye.